Hey, hello, Cindy here today. I'm in the final weeks of preparing for a time in Tanzania. I'll be heading out early April and then I'll be back home before the end of April, but a number of weeks on the ground in Western Tanzania. The invitation there has become a priority because the bishop in there has taken a number of students through to the degree level of the course that we have, College of Capturing Courage. And so the initial pull for myself to go there was for the conversations and the meeting and the learning about how the course has been, how it went, teaching it, things that I can learn in terms of advising or suggestions for other pastors or bishops in other places as they also endeavor to take on the course and to teach it to others. But beyond that, of course, and above that actually, is just what the Lord might want to do during this time there. For myself, my job is to show up, is to obey the Lord and to come into a glad agreement with where, first of all, where God is sending me and for how long, and to bring myself. It's an obedience and trust act, thing with God, and it's simple. I always just have to bring myself into quietness and trust, actually, and to lay down my own concerns about what a ministry time might be at the feet of the Lord. And then this deep peace and this quiet abiding takes hold of me, and all concerns could just come into the peace of the Lord. And there's no, it's just a really amazing thing, and it's a good thing. And ministry, I don't think ministry can happen without this, at least not the way the Lord is leading us at Capturing Courage. There is this sense that we bring, may the Lord abide in us, and as we come to a place, may the Lord find greater root there, something like that. We don't always know what God's going to do. We have been listening. There's been a deep listening, and there has been, again, just this inquiry and curiosity, like, God, what would you have of this time in Tanzania? Began speaking to my heart about the waters of the Lord, and this, which for Tanzania, I think is a refreshment of the Lord. They've had, as food prices have risen all over the world, and that's been particularly so in Tanzania. And at this time, there's real food insecurity or difficulty. And so a couple of prayer requests come out of this. Practically speaking, even as I go there and then as people gather, as we gather together, there is this expectation of coming together in a place and then eating together. Now, Capturing Courage, the Lord has always just told us to go and to be and to come into the capacity of the people to where we're going. And this is a really unique sort of thing, but God's been really severe in this, actually, in this instruction. And so it's the same, and it's the same in a place where there's little food. And in other places, even for people to host, the bishop and I and whoever this little team will be as we travel in the country is a thing that forces people into trust, actually, that God is going to look after all of us, and that we can gather with what we have and be glad in that, and that actually God can increase that. And I've seen this. I've stories of this where people have wrestled themselves into the trust and peace and of the Lord in regards to food, and then God does a thing. So, bottom line, God doesn't have to do a thing. we're glad to gather in the capacity of what we have. My heart would be that God would compel hearts and minds to experience a kind of trust and rest as we gather, and all of us, myself included, the bishop, the people to whom we're going, that there would be this, well, I guess it's faith, but I always think of it as a deep trust, that the purposes of the Lord are such that we'll all be okay, and that the gathering time will be blessed. And I've begun praying that food would be multiplied, like literally as it's dished out of pots onto plates or bowls, that the pot would not go empty. And we've experienced this other places and times. And at Capturing Courage, we've been learning that we don't actually need to bring money as a solution, but that God is solution beyond our money. Of course, we're glad to walk in funds as they are, whatever that might be. But there's this thing of God as we gather that is beyond that, and that provision is more than money, actually. Money's just one piece of it. So, and then the other thing that Lord has been telling us about this time, this sense of this rain of God upon the hills of Tanzania. Now, right now it's the rainy season. I've been checking the weather where I'm going on my phone, right? And they don't need literal rain at this time. But when I think about the difficulty of food and the difficulty within the country, what happens in our hearts is we become hardened, right? I've experienced this. I've seen this in others. And so my prayer is that this time as we gather together would bring a refreshment of the Lord, a restoration of hope in some way that, again, just that hearts are softened and we're a little more glad and a little more resting in the Lord, knowing that God is with us. That somehow this time there would, do the work of the Lord in people's hearts, like whatever that is, that needs to be. And of course, I don't know all of what that is. I never will know all of what that is. But I am glad to go, and I'm glad to gather, and I'm glad to show up. And then God does just innumerable things out of this as we take courage to come before him and to point to Jesus Christ and to declare peace over each other and upon lands and peoples and regions and even the nation. So these would be the prayers of the time to come, that the peace of the Lord would rest upon the country of Tanzania in the name and the blood of our living Lord Jesus Christ, that all assignments of the enemy would be thwarted, stood back, silenced and bound, hashta, impotent to effect within that country, that there would be an enlivening in the Lord for individuals, for families, for communities, and for regions, and for the nation, for the glory of the Lord and for their future and delight. We declare this, and we stand in this, we stand in the Lord, and we allow this ripples of the waters of the Lord to go out from us, through us, to Hoshta, fill us to overflow, and that many are refreshed and restored in the Lord, whatever that may mean for them and however the Lord may want to do that for them. And so we look to the Lord, and these are the things, if the Spirit leads you to pray in agreement with this time in Tanzania, these are the things that we've been coming to and realizing. But I'm always interested to hear any prophetic or prayerful sense that you may be sensing as well as you sit with the Lord with this. Prayers are welcome, a glad heart of agreement in the Lord, and deep trust spoken out for Tanzania and for these few weeks on the ground there are always lovely. So thank you. This is it's just, we're glad to be heading to this. So thanks. Bless you.